It is so great to see all of you here in the Zoom room. My name is Gigi Naglak. I'm the Director of Programs here at the New Jersey Council for the Humanities, literally in my case, here at the New Jersey Council for the Humanities in our office in Camden. I'm here to welcome you today on behalf of myself, the staff and board of the New Jersey Council for the Humanities, and our Executive Director, Karin Berkowitz, who is here with us, and you'll hear from her a little bit later. All of us at NJCH are very proud to present this year's Community History Showcase. NJCH is a 501c3 nonprofit organization and a state-level partner of the National Endowment for the Humanities. We work across the state of New Jersey to explore, cultivate, and champion the public humanities in order to strengthen New Jersey's diverse community. We're in our 50th year of doing this work. Hard to believe, but it's true. And we do that work through our grants, special initiatives, and programs, of which community history is one of the newest, in fact. We launched community history in 2021 and are delighted to have you with us today to showcase the work of our second cohort of organizations to participate in this program. I'd like to introduce you now to my inimitable colleague, Kristen O'Brassel-Colfin, who's going to tell you a little bit more about our community history program and the work we'll feature in this presentation today. Kristen is the assistant teaching professor and coordinator of public history at Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey. But more importantly for us, she is the lead facilitator in the community history program. Kristen, over to you.
Thank you so much, Gigi, and thanks to all of you for being here. It has been an immense pleasure and privilege to work alongside the Humanities Council, and especially Gigi and Carol McCarty, our program coordinator, on this program. Not only because they're wonderful collaborators, but because, of course, it has brought us into conversation with all of you, the organizations we've been working with, and all of the communities that you represent. The organizations that you'll hear from this afternoon are deeply invested in telling undertold or forgotten or erased stories in their communities. Community history participants work closely with their communities to learn about and share untold stories from those communities, and participants receive instruction on public history practices, develop projects in a collaborative environment, and receive funding from the council to launch projects in their communities. In turn, we all collectively receive the knowledge that you are creating and documenting. It's a pretty sweet deal. For many different perspectives and through diverse methods, the speakers who will present their work here have paid careful attention to the needs, interests, histories, presents, and futures of their communities to use the tools of the humanities to cultivate representation and a sense of belonging. Really important stuff. And maybe most importantly, to challenge us to see what's missing from the landscape and from the conversations around us. These projects are all simultaneously involved in preserving the past, as well as deconstructing it in order to build a new path forward person by person. So thank you for doing the work that you do. We will now turn it over to our 5 organizations from this year's first cohort. We will first have the representatives from each of these organizations. So I'll list the names who are here, but of course, they're the ones who are here. There's many more behind the scenes as well. First, we will have Eloise Samuels from the New Jersey Orators, then Kathleen Wyatt and Harry Belengi from Cape May, Kimberly Ballard from True Mentors, Diane Stripe and Kate Biebrick from the Mahwah Museum, and Soon Benham and Marla Higginbotham from CASA Essex. So thank you all so much, and I'm going to turn it over now to Eloise. And if at any point you have questions that you want to store for later, you're welcome to put them in the chat, and we'll come back to them at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. I'm going to share my screen. Hello, I'm Eloise Samuels, founder and president of the New Jersey Orators. Today, you will experience a civic engagement project where two of our New Jersey orators capture experiences from two seniors who are over 90 years of age and who lived through the civil rights era. They currently live in Plainfield and Piscataway. Their oral interviews were converted into original video narratives and will be presented by the orators. The pilot is a framework for a national oral history project where our orators will have the opportunity to interview National Association of University Women Forever Emeralds past presidents. The goal of the pilot is for high school orators to document oral history interviews of 4 elderly New Jersey seniors. The NGL oral history process demonstrates real-life application of oral history civic engagement. So we selected 4 high school orators from across our state: Chelsea Young from Plainfield, Demi Asanubi from New Brunswick, Aiden and Avery Small from our union chapters. We also selected seniors who are over the age of 90 from Middlesex and Union County. Miss Ida Anderson from Piscataway is a long-term member of the NAACP. Also, Miss Anna Booker and her husband, Charles Booker of Plainfield, are lifetime members of NAACP, but Miss Anna Booker is a member of the National Association of University Women Plainfield chapter. We want to acknowledge Mother Mary Gordon, a 103-year-old Perth Amboy resident. She has a wonderful memory, a very sharp memory of the civil rights movement. Ms. Pinckney Mae Jackson Rogers, retired registered nurse. She traveled all the way from Alabama to New Jersey to get her nursing certification. The pilot project began in February and ends this December. We want to thank the New Jersey Council for Humanities for funding this project that made it possible to bring to you these young individuals and their clips, both the audio and the video, for you to listen to and to hear what our young people have to say.
During the time period of your activism, what was the atmosphere in New Jersey like in terms of racial relations between Black people and white people, and Black students and white students?
I don't think really, we didn't really interact that much. We did not interact, and you knew where you were going, and that Southerners, as an example, come up and say up south. They would say that about the north, up south, because they were more aware of the segregation.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chelsea Young. I am my freshman year of college and a proud alumni of the Plainfield chapter of New Jersey Orators. In spring of 2022, I interviewed Mrs. Anna Booker, who is 97 years old, and her husband, Mr. Charles Booker, who is 95 years old. And Mr. and Mrs. Booker are most celebrated for their efforts in helping to desegregate the Plainfield public schools based on the community and litigation of the land in 1965 case, both for the vegetation of prior to this. Mr. and Mrs. Booker realized the in the educational resources provided to Black schools when compared to white schools in the school district. And this inspires the Bookers to partner with the NJCH and advocate for integration of public schools through peaceful protests, meetings with the school board, and litigation in the courts. With the support of the 1954 Brown v. Board of Education Supreme Court precedent, which desegregated public schools on a federal level, the case was held in favor.
I went to Gloucester Training School. We were separate from the white children feel that the schooling was equal, like they said, or not?
By law, the well-being or different the books were handed down, the education was unequal, the places where we could attend, and your system, all that kind of thing was left to your heritage.
I'm gonna listen to it over there, okay? Well, it doesn't sound real good over here either.
My name is Gigi Naglak, and I am a proud member of the New Jersey Orators. Today, I'll be presenting to you a narrative of Mrs. Ida Anderson's life. Throughout my almost 90 years of living, I, Mrs. Ida Vivian Brown Anderson, have asked the question, why? And as I grew up and went to high school, I asked, why is my school called Gloucester Training School, but the white school is called a high school? Why do we have hand-me-down books, but the other school gets brand new ones? Why is it called a separate but equal school when the quality of education is far from equal? And as I watched my father vote, I asked, why does my dad have to memorize the Gettysburg Address and the preamble to the Constitution in order to vote? Why does he have to pay a poll tax? Why does he have to travel to a separate but equal polling station to cast a ballot?
Well, we want to thank you all for listening to our young people. And I want you to know that if you want to hear the remainder of their presentation, please go to our website where you can click on this video and watch the entire presentation. And while you're there, please make a donation to the New Jersey Orators programming so that we can continue to foster programs such as this and others. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Eloise. Thank you so much, Eloise. And if you have any questions for Eloise about the New Jersey Orators Project, you can pop those into the chat and we will come back to those at the end of the presentations. Thanks again. So next we have Kathleen White and Harry Belangi from Cape May.
Hello, and Kate's here somewhere. Where do I see Kate?
Hi, Kate, you're on mute.
Kate's on mute, yeah.
Sorry.
And here we are. Kate?
Well,
Kate is starting.
Well, thank you, Harry. Welcome to the Greater Cape May Historical Society New Jersey Humanities Project Showcase. Welcome, friends, and thank you to the New Jersey Council of Humanities for having this wonderful program available to us. Today's hidden history of the Cape May Geographic Society documents from 1947 through 1991. But first, about the Greater Cape May Historical Society, our organization, mission, and vision. We were organized in 1973 to save the Colonial House from destruction for a parking lot. The society became the stewards of the Colonial House circa 1730, one of the oldest in the county still open to the public. We collect and share history of the Greater Cape May area. And we welcome visitors to the city of Cape May. Over 40,000 a year visit our town in high season. We're authentic. Visiting the Colonial House is an experience to children and adults alike. It is so small. Why the Cape May Geographic Society? Well, first, its history. The Cape May Geographic Society was a local group of people who organized in 1945, predating the New Jersey DEP, formed in 1970 by approximately 25 years. The mission of the Greater Cape May Historical Society recognized the Cape May Geographic Society was an authentic history of the Jersey Cape and fits our mission. It's for continuity to save the Cape May Geographic Society's work in early ecotourism for future generations to research. Cultural and ecotourism. There is a trend in tourism to allow the traveler to immerse themselves in the local culture, history, and meet the local people. Some are looking to experience a lifestyle they can't get at home: bird watching, camping, local flora and fauna, or enjoying local produce. It's authentic. The Jersey Cape is steeped in uniqueness from the mom and pop owned hotels, motels, and other businesses that contribute to the local culture and history experiences, from the boardwalks to a local museum or an historic attraction. And birding. The Jersey Cape is an internationally known major East Coast migratory flyway for birds and butterflies and ecotourism. And those butterflies fly all the way to Mexico every year. What about the Cape May Geographic Society? During the winter of 1945, a group of local community members formed the Cape May Geographic Society to bring a greater appreciation of the natural history and the historical background of the Cape May region. They advocated the preservation of natural beauty, the wise use of natural resources. They sponsored projects, local lectures, and issued 44 annual publications relating to the natural history and the historical sites of the area through 1991. They scheduled regular nature study walks and expeditions to observe birds, flowers, trees, fossils, seashells, bogs, and marine life. They maintained a small natural history exhibit in the solarium at the old convention pier in Cape May. Our project is about this hidden history. Those 44 bulletins are dense text written mostly for the local people who understood the area. But as we delve further into the text, we notice that they mention historic sites that are no longer in Cape May. So there is a highlight of some of the pictures that we will be looking for our project. So planned the project, we created the project managers, Kathleen Wyatt and Harry Belangi, and project members. Susan Bryant is a stakeholder, an excellent writer. Meryl Nelson, stakeholder and excellent writer. And Dr. Rose Trafficante, team advisor. She gave us the guidance that we needed. We met with community advisors, and we are expecting to have oral history from former members of the Geographic Society. So now we planned the project. We created a project plan, created the budget, collected all 44 of the Cape May Geographic Society bulletins, contacted former members, scanned the bulletins for relevant information, and we plan to post them to our website. So the path forward for our project is to associate historical pictures to the descriptive text. We plan to do this through summer, fall 2023. Then we're going to create a rack card for distribution early winter, early spring 2024. We're going to distribute them through the Chamber of Commerce, real estate agency welcome bags for rentals and purchases of homes new to the area, bank lobbies, Acme lobbies, mail kiosks, local businesses. And then we plan to collect the ecotourism links for posting to the Greater Cape May Historical Society website. And some of them below are the New Jersey Audubon, 2 observatories, the Nature Conservancy, but at one time, a Cape May community now has been flooded from a storm, birding, photography, and gardening groups, and Facebook. Harry.
As Kate said, we are relating the text to pictures. And we have been browsing through some of the pictures and some of the limited information, such as that one Kate just showed you about the Admiral. But here are some samples of pictures that we have in our archive. On the right is a very important one. It's called Pennywise. It was a weekly publication about the goings and comings of people in Cape May, along with the thumbnails on the front. And the exciting thing was who's on the front of Pennywise this week. Some additional pictures. Kate mentioned that the organization had a small display area in the solarium. The center upper picture is the solarium. It was a public space in Cape May. It was absolutely delightful. And that is where they did their, had their little presentation. The tables you see there were unique. They enabled visitors to get materials, writing materials, to send having a wonderful time in Cape May letters back to home. Here are some additional pictures of Cape May from various eras. The one in the upper center is prior to the 1962 storm. Others show the beach after the 62 storm and the seawall. We mentioned the iconic Cape May Hotel. This is something that they were just talking about as a visual landmark for our fishing fleet and others. And we have a picture of it being built in its heyday with a swimming pool built by the Navy, and finally its demolition. Here we are, we're down at the bottom of Cape May, and we would love to have you visit us. Kate mentioned also, and this was a kind of a real surprise to find, that the Society offered lectures. And this is something that the Cape May City published as a Come to Cape May booklet. And I happened to find in this an announcement from the Geographic Society that they were sponsoring a lecture in City Hall. This is, and it's 50 cents for non-members and free for members. This was too late to include in the slide presentation. And we thank you very much for being with us today. Kate, any comments?
Thank you, Harry.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you both so much, Kate and Harry, much appreciated.
Thank you.
And next, we have Kimberly Ballard from True Mentors. And again, if you have questions for Cape May that you want to put into the chat, you file those away and we'll save them for the end. Over to you, Kim. Thank you.
Great. Hello, everyone. My name is Kim Ballard. I am the director of True Mentors. We're located in Hudson County, New Jersey, and most of our youth participate in Hoboken, New Jersey. So when you think of Hoboken, you probably think of three main things: Frank Sinatra, pizza, Cake Boss. That's what everybody from the outside thinks of Hoboken, but there's actually a lot more to Hoboken, and we explored that over the past semester and year with our youth. So thank you, NJ Council for the Humanities, as well as a number of other supporters that allowed this project to be possible. True Mentors has worked with over 500 youth that are at risk and underserved in the community, and around 1,300 volunteers from around Hudson County. So the youth needed to feel more representation in our community because of like the things that I mentioned. You know, not a lot of people know about the youth's communities, and there's not a lot of representation in that aspect. So some of these youth have been living in Hoboken for generations, like their families go back for, 100 years, and their stories were not told. So we really wanted to experience that and go through that with the youth and see what kind of things they could come up with. So some of the cultural art history lessons we had were making a BIPOC icon t-shirt. So a person made a screen printing workshop for the youth to work on, and they got to choose who they wanted to put on their shirts, and that helped them feel some representation. We also came up with a music and identity lesson that we did last semester, and they got to make their own playlists and talk about the impact that certain songs and musicians had on their community and identity. Something really interesting we did was we created family crests. So they got to learn a little bit about what family crests are, and then they got to make their own pertaining to their own family history. We also had the former poet laureate of New Jersey come to teach them about spoken word and the power of words and spoken word within their community. We had a self-portrait workshop, which was really cool. They got to learn about the history of different self-portraits and famous self-portraits, and then different methods across cultures. And then they got to design their own, which was really cool. And you can see a picture of this one here. This is our buddy Serena and her self-portrait. Some other things they did were designing their own manga that had, you know, stuff pertaining to their own history. And so we've had a little bit of trouble finding a space to host our programs this semester. So some of the stuff we had planned for early in the semester got pushed back, but now we have a space, thank goodness. So the next thing we're doing is creating your own flag. So we're going to talk to them about flags and their meaning and how they can design either their own flag, or they can create a flag that they feel a connection to. Maybe it has to do with their personal background, or, you know, they can create their own, which I'm really excited to see about that. Another thing we're doing this upcoming month is creating their own maps of Hoboken. So we're having a cartographer come and talk to them about map making, and then we're going to go over different Hoboken landmarks and see which ones are actually important to them. Like, you know, if you're an outsider, you might be like, oh, Carlos, of course. Yeah, that's like, but to these kids, it might be something totally different. So we're really interested in seeing what landmarks stand out to them in the community. Another thing we are planning to do is a scavenger hunt, which is in the same vein as this community map project, where we're going to have them go on a scavenger hunt and find and check off different things on a list in their community to see, you know, what are the landmarks that stand out to them and why. And then finally, we did a field trip to the Grounds for Sculpture back in June, and we talked to them about, you know, this art history, and, you know, we took them through the museum. They got a guided tour, and then they got to create their own sculptures, which was really cool. It was led by a workshop at the Grounds for Sculpture, and they got to infuse their own meaning into their own sculptures, and they got to work together on that. And that was really cool. And these are some of the sculptures. I don't know if you can see them very well, but there's some of the sculptures that they came up with, which was really awesome. And that's it. We have a showcase coming up on November 20th, where we're going to showcase all of the artwork that they've worked on. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Kim. Appreciate it. And next we have Diane Stripe and Kate Biebrick from the Mahwah Museum.
Share my screen. Can everyone see that? Can everyone see that?
No, it's not. It says it's loading.
We see that your screen has been shared, but the presentation is not visible.
Perhaps going back to the start of that. There we go.
Okay, great. Sorry about that, everyone. So I'm Caitlin, and I'm from the Mahwah Museum in Mahwah, New Jersey. And my colleague Diane Stripe and I worked on the Ramapo Legacy and Heritage exhibit at our museum. So the Ramapo Lenape people have long lived in Mahwah, where we're located, as well as the surrounding areas of Ringwood and Hilburn. And this exhibit is meant to mark the significance of the land that the museum is located on, preserve the history of the culture, and importantly, reassert that the Ramapo are still very much an active part of the community today. While we were collecting oral histories for this project, we heard from people working to, in their own words, untell history and then retell it, and then heard cries of calls to just kind of reestablish that they were still here. So for supplies, we purchased several tablets to put in our exhibit, and we'll be featuring interactive PDFs, which I'll get more into in a minute, as a way of storing and sharing more information than we would be able to fit on a typical text-based panel. They'll also allow us to highlight audio and visual elements like pictures, archival material, and oral history clips, which I'll also speak more on. And having the tablets accessible in the exhibit will also allow patrons to engage with and explore the material more on their own time. Okay, so for these interactive PDFs, we have different sections of our exhibits. We'll have a different graphic. Here are some of our graphics on the screen right now. They'll be on the tablets, and each of the graphics will have touch or tap points, as you can see here. And these will work almost as asterisks with what we have on our wall panels. So if someone is reading a panel in our exhibit and there's a symbol next to a word or topic, they can click on the corresponding notation on the tablet and they'll be able to explore related multimedia material that we've uploaded. So like I mentioned, that could be oral histories, pictures, videos, music, or things from our archives. So I mentioned we have collected oral histories several times in this project. So we did get a recorder and adapters for it. One of our interviewees was Shirley Van Dunk, who's a lifetime community member. We actually interviewed her twice, once at her home in April 2022, and then again at the Ringwood Public Library on August 2nd. And her insights on the material in part informed our exhibit panels, and the clips from the day's interview will be featured as part of the display. And you can see she brought some physical materials and pictures to share with us as well. Additionally, we have scheduled a recording session that will be done in Lenape Munsee language, which is an increasingly rare language that's spoken. And these recordings will also be able to be accessed on the tablets for patrons to hear. Okay, so Marty Perrano is a member of the Ramapo, and she's been a huge part in creating this exhibit. First, she recorded 3 legends for us: The Most Beautiful Bird, How 2 Bears Got Long Tails, and How the Devil, Evil Manito, Broke His Apron Strings. And these stories are going to be displayed on large vertical banners at the Ringwood Public Library, which is nearby us. And this will allow these stories to be accessible to more children and families, as well as extend the reach of our organization. And as you can see to the right, there will be bookmarks featuring a QR code that will house Marty's recordings of these stories, which will allow kids to take them home and actually listen to the legends, so they'll be able to experience the stories in print and in audio form. Part of our exhibit details the practical and artistic usages of wampum. You can see some of what we have on display here. And Marty Perrano also created a large loom so visitors can experience the craft process for themselves. This model particularly appeals to children, and one of the museum's goals in this project has been to appeal to a younger audience through cultural interactives. Unfortunately, Marty has had years of experience creating educational material on indigenous culture through craft. So another part of this exhibit, Sarah Koenig, who's a museum member and a professor at Ramapo College, which is located also in Mahwah, collaborated with Two Clouds Williams, who's a member of the Ramapo, and students in her Native American course at the college, and they created a map through ArcGIS software that plots important Ramapo sites in the area and categorizes them as historical, archaeological, or active. And this map will be accessible to all visitors on a touchscreen within the exhibit. And finally, the focus on community outreach as a part of this project has influenced us to tell the Ramapo history from their voices and enabled us at the museum to become more engaged with bringing this history to the present. And we look forward to continuing. And our information can be found on our website at mahwahmuseum.org if you're interested in following the project and the things we do from here. But thank you so much.
And we thank you, New Jersey Council for the Humanities, for your support in this project.
Thank Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. So again, save your questions and we would love to hear them at the end. We have our final organization presenting now. We have Marla Higginbotham and Sue Benham from CASA Essex.
Hi, everyone. My name is Marla. I'm the Executive Director of CASA of Essex County, and with me it's actually Soon Benham and Jess Earl is with us as well. We have been the team that have been working on this, and we have a little video to highlight our journey. So I'll let Soon take it from here.
Thank you for joining us to review the project report for CASA for Children of Essex County's Oral History Project. We wanted to start with a little background to help explain why this project is so important to us. For those of you that are unfamiliar with CASA, CASA stands for Court-Appointed Special Advocates. CASA Essex recruits, trains, and supervises volunteers to advocate for a child that has experienced severe abuse and/or neglect and is currently in out-of-home care. CASA volunteers ensures children's best interests remain the priority while working towards establishing a safe, stable, and permanent home for each child served. The seeds for this project were planted years ago as CASA Essex was exploring how to increase diversity amongst its volunteers. More than 80% of the youth CASA Essex serves identify as Black or African American, and nearly all come from families living below the poverty line. Yet, the majority of our volunteers are middle class and have had very different life experiences than those of our youth. CASA Essex sought to recruit more volunteers with a similar background who could relate to youth on a different level. With this as a starting point, we participated in Prudential Financial's Pro Bono program, where we were paired with a team of Prudential employees to explore how to tackle this challenge. While we went into the program hoping to generate ideas for volunteer recruitment, we left with an understanding that there is just a general lack of understanding about the foster care system in the community. We left the program thinking about broader educational campaigns that could expose some of the often invisible aspects of foster care. Last year, CASA of New Jersey, with the help of Dr. Carol Spigner, set out to train staff and advocates within the CASA programs in New Jersey around the history of race in child welfare. It's so important to look back and explore how race was a major factor in shaping the child welfare system and what implications that might still be having on families today. That brings us to where we are now. In March, CASA Essex was awarded a grant from the New Jersey Council for the Humanities to work on this unique community oral history project. We really learned so much over the past few months from the group of experts at NJCH and dive deeply into our vision to engage the audience in critical reflection on human histories, cultures, values, and beliefs. The next two slides will highlight some key project updates that were identified during our sessions with NJCH. We started with the basics. 1, finalizing a budget and grant plan. 2, solidifying our advisory team members. And 3, bringing on a project manager with expertise in oral histories to carry the project forward. One of the most important updates is the project title change. With feedback from NJCH and what we learned was most important, we came up with a streamlined project name highlighting the community aspect of the project. Voices of Foster Care in Essex County, Decoding the Myths of the System. The final product will be a collection of narrated stories from Essex County families and key stakeholders, providing firsthand experience with the child welfare system. The project will incorporate key moments in history about how the system was designed and evolved. By sharing these lived experiences, we hope to put a spotlight on how the past still influences the systems affecting Essex County families today, and ultimately improve the service capacity of our organization. Our advisory dream team. We held our first round of meetings where we discussed the first 2 phases of the project. The insight and resources the advisors were able to share have already shaped the project in new ways. Each member brings a specific strength to the project, programs and funding, clinical perspective of childhood trauma, the judiciary perspective, and an academic oral history expertise. We are well underway with the budget and funding plan. The team has submitted for several grants and plans to submit for more. As new opportunities arise, we will continue to add to this plan. One of the most important key learnings was that we needed to think about community, really broaden the scope through community involvement via partnerships with organizations within Essex County. It's important that this project drives change for Essex County. We will try and accomplish this by involving local officials early on. Lastly, it's critical that we foster human conversations between all Essex County community members. We want to do this by making the project as accessible to the community as possible. Our project started as a small idea within CASA Essex that we thought could be accomplished on our own. As we quickly learned more and more with NJCH and after discussions with the advisory committee, we realized it's way bigger than CASA Essex. It's about involving other stakeholders and organizations who are involved with the children affected by the child welfare system and really give them the opportunity to get involved. The final product's impact will be that much more special. We plan to complete the project and host an in-person launch on June 18th, 2024. The goal is to have a physical exhibit at a location in Essex County that is easily accessible to all, as well as a permanent digital presence. Thank you for viewing our project update. At this time, we'll take any questions.
Thank you so much, Soon and Marla. And thank you to all of you for sharing. So we can just take a moment and appreciate what you've accomplished in these few short months, right? Congratulations. So at this point, we would love to have an open discussion. And of course, you know, the NJCH team has lots of questions and things that we would love to talk with all of you about, but we would really love to hear from you, people who are attending, hearing about these projects for the first time. Please feel free to share a question in the chat or to unmute, and we can call on you. You raise your hand. We would love to hear your questions. Well, perhaps while you're thinking of your questions, we can use one to get started. Gigi, did you want to go ahead, or shall I start with one of mine? You go ahead.
Again, such a pleasure to work with all of you over the last few months. And just for everybody who's not actually involved in this program, I literally mean a few months. This is like community engaged history programs on steroids. All of our partners have done such incredible work in brief periods of time. And I think all of them have done a great job of also talking about what they were able to accomplish at this moment and where they vision these projects going in the future, which I really appreciate all of you pointing to in your presentations. Something that came to me as I was watching today, I've been thinking about it for the last several months, but it came up in an interesting way as I was listening to your presentations today. And I'm going to direct this question particularly to Mahwah Museum and True Mentors, first at least, which is the power between art and history, the opportunity that you have to use art to help us explore history, to share history. And it occurred to me in a way that it hadn't before, that you are these two organizations as examples are coming to it from very different places. True Mentors is primarily an art-based organization that's now engaging in history practice, whereas Mahwah Museum is a history-based organization that nonetheless is using art, right? Using storytelling, using visual spectacle from the Ramapola Nape to help tell your stories. So I'm curious if you could talk about how those two areas come together for you, how you feel that this program, or more generally in the work that you do, how art and history can speak to each other and offer opportunities together. Whoever would like to start.
Well, I'm coming to history from an art background, so it's vitally important, and it never ceases to amaze me how art can make a connection and enlighten anything, or historical events in a much more interactive way, using different senses, our eyes, our hearing music, and also being active with our hands and doing, craft. to experience and to help us to understand history in a new way, rather than just reading, and looking at pictures. So I think it's vitally important.
I think for our organization personally, a lot of what we focus on is the underserved youth in the community and how we can get them involved and get them to do the same activities that perhaps somebody with a wealthier background can do. And I think the art and history kind of go hand in hand there, because there's a history of these communities being underserved and not having the same access to art, which is a big reason why we wanted to give them these opportunities to tell their own stories through art. And so I think the history aspect, while it's, it's a little drier, I think we wanted to come at it from this artistic background for a number of reasons, because for kids, history is a dry thing for them to just write down their own stories. I don't think it would have worked as well. So I think using art as a medium to allow them to tell their stories was vitally important. And I think, as youth who don't have access to or the privilege to create art as often as somebody with a wealthier background, I think combining these two aspects was really important for them. And they all told me like, oh my God, we loved this project so much, we want to do more of it, so I think it was really important for them to get this opportunity.
Something that struck me as I was thinking about this is how you've, in such interesting ways, also used what we think of as traditionally historical tools, so like tools for historical research, in doing artistic practice, like creating a map, right? That's a thing that historians do, right? That's a thing that geographers do. But thinking about it as artistic practice is just very cool. Similarly, both researching, historical coat of arms and thinking about symbology and all of those kinds of things, and then creating your own. I just think that the really creative approach that you've had has been an excellent marriage of history and art. So I'm grateful for it. You've definitely got me thinking about ways that I can incorporate this in the future as well.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you. And now we have a question in the chat from Sarah Curitan, who would like to hear from any of the participants how these projects changed their process of doing history. So some of the organizations are, a little bit more kind of embedded in the world of history and historical practice, and some are coming to history with fresher eyes, being more embedded in community engagement work already. So if anyone would like to jump in on how this process has, how these projects have changed your process of doing history, that would be wonderful. Thank you for the question, Sarah.
I'd like to just pop in right now. And in fact, don't want to put my orator on the spot, but this is one of the things that we train them to do, is to be always ready. And so I'd like to ask Chelsea Young, who is a participant who actually did the oratory for oral interview of Miss Anna Booker. It's a very well-known lady out of Plainfield, about her involvement with Plainfield going against the desegregating, desegregating the schools in the Plainfield School District. So I'd like to just hear from her about her impressions and what she learned from it.
Thank you, Ms. Samuels, and thank you, Ms. Curitan, for the question. I really enjoyed the process, the interview process, and I always learned about Brown v. Board of Ed, and this experience allowed me to get a closer look at a case similar to this. I'm actually studying, I'm in college right now. I was in my senior year at the time of the interview, and I'm studying law and policy. So I really appreciated learning about about this case in my own hometown from Plainfield, and just seeing like not just history from a general perspective, but from a place that's closer to me, and seeing how I am directly impacted by Mrs. Anna Booker and Mr. Charles Booker's hard work in the past. So definitely just getting the experience of learning more about the legal field, as well as seeing it from a closer perspective of my life. And I really appreciated it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea. That gives a wonderful kind of sense of how these projects can personalize and kind of, you know, build connection and historical empathy on that kind of local level. Anyone else want to weigh in on Sarah's question? Marla?
I will. So, you know, our program is, we're not from the historical background. We come from the community awareness perspective. And our project is spearheading an effort to collect narrated stories from Essex County families and key stakeholders who have lived experience in the child welfare system. So our project is going to really recognize and bring awareness to how the system, the foster care system, impacts families in Essex County. And our goal is to develop a deeper understanding of the historical process that continues to inform these experiences. And ultimately, you know, the development and the implementation of this project, we hope to deepen our connection to the community, which will ultimately help us improve our service capacity as an organization. So ours is rooted in a historical concept from that perspective, but we are not historians by any stretch of the means.
But Marla, you know what you are is this perfect example of how historians would love to interact with organizations that are deeply embedded in their communities, right? So that we can have a kind of develop mutual understanding going both directions about all of these historical processes and the conditions on the ground right now. Thank you so much for being part of this program.
I have an observation too from Cape May. I just finished my research and sent it back to Kate and Harry. And I felt like I was so blessed to work on this project. I was working on the 1950s. I was born in that decade. And to be able to look back from the Geographic Society, their early environmental activities, for example, they were very aware of, I won't say global warming, but the tide rising and how it impacted the birds and farms in Cape May County. And that part, that's going to be available for people to look at as Cape May is changing so rapidly now into a place that people can't afford to live. There's simple farmers and things like that. I think that's going to be great for people who grew up there to be able to look back and have the continuity, and also the Pennywise that Harry mentioned, the weekly publication with people's pictures. I had so much fun with that. Although I was only a little girl, I knew families, and I posted on my personal Facebook page, Throwback Thursday, families and things that were happening in Cape May, and trying to promote the good work of the Historical Society. And so many people have responded positively that, like, wow, my uncle, my father, this, and it's been just wonderful to see it, how just promoting it on a Facebook page, people get so excited about this, and it generates a lot of conversations about history. So it was really very much a fun project, and thank you for letting us do that. And hopefully we can get more members, because Harry and Kate and Merle and the other people, we're all getting older, and we really need to make that history come alive. And the bird watching, there were just so many things that are big industries now, how they banded butterflies in the 1950s. So anyway.
To build on Susan for a second, on doing history, looking at the Historical Society specifically over many, many years, doing history at the Historical Society consisted of people coming physically to the museum and looking at a handful of artifacts. with maybe an annual exhibit of some flavor. They never saw the rest of the history. So what this project is doing is letting us take this incredible paper history of Cape May that no one else has and do it differently to be able to present it to the public. Now you look at our other major museum here in town, the Physic Estate, the Mid-Atlantic Center for Arts and Humanities, an absolutely incredible organization. They don't have this collection of paper, so they are limited with physical objects only. We're not. One of the interesting things, thanks to an anonymous donation of a box of moldy paper, which you never know what you're going to do with when you get it. I'm digging through this last weekend, and I found, of all things, an interview, a newspaper interview with Dr. Sidney Newcomer, and absolutely nobody knows who he is. Well, he owned the Physic Estate at one time. And this is an interview of him talking about the house he owned and loved. This is the kind of thing that doing history differently lets us present.
And I think, Harry, to add to that, I don't want to monopolize the topic, but we started 50 years ago with a small house that was saved from demolition. And we expanded beyond that to the point that we built on it to be able to apply for this grant, to be able to, so to speak, look at it from a different perspective and organization as community history. And now we have 3 or 4 projects on the back burner that when I say, Harry, that would be a great community history project, we both identify right away what the steps and methodology would be. And thank you for that.
Is wonderful. Thank you all so much for your thoughtful responses to that really great question. I think we can squeeze in one more question before we have some closing remarks from NJCH's director. Anyone have one more you want to squeeze in there? All right. Well, in that case, thank you all again so much for sharing and discussing with us. And I would love to pass it off for the final word for Karin Berkowitz, Director of the New Jersey Council for Humanities.
Thank you so much, Kristen. And thank you to everyone who was here today. What a great discussion to end on. Thanks, Sarah, for the question that provoked it. I have to say, as a historian by training, it's just a delight to hear people talking about how history has allowed them to broaden their lenses on the past, or to connect more deeply with their communities, or to find personal connections between the past and the present. All of that really warms my heart. So, thank you to all of you who participated in the showcase, all of you who asked and answered questions. Most of all, thank you to our 5 participant organizations: New Jersey Orators, Greater Cape May Historical Society, True Mentors, Mahwah Museum, and CASA of Essex County, for your outstanding work engaging your communities. And I have to say also a huge thank you to Gigi, Kristen, and Carol, who run this program and who do a fabulous job, I think, of getting everybody together, getting everyone to think through what are sometimes really thorny and challenging issues. Because although you could, maybe convince a high school or otherwise, sometimes history is really hard, right? It's really challenging, and it involves often really challenging questions that force us all to think sometimes beyond our comfort zones. So thank you all for the work that you do with this program and helping to move those kinds of discussions forward in New Jersey's communities. I just want to say, having said all of that about how exciting this program is, that if anyone here today is interested in learning more about community history, or perhaps participating in the future, you can visit our website at njhumanities.org to learn more. You'll find community history under our programs tab, and applications for the 2023 cohort will open in November and are due in January. So you have plenty of time to apply. And if you're not sure if this is the right fit for you, have a look around on that page, look at last year's showcase, and then don't hesitate either, I think, to reach out and ask Gigi a question if you're not sure. because we're really excited about what we're seeing come out of this program. Speaking of, we will have another showcase of our latest community history cohort this in 2020, the second in 2022 in April. So stay tuned for more details as we get through this fall. The best way that you can find out about that is always our website. So if you go to njhumanities.org, you can also sign up for our mailing list there. You can follow us on social media, and we will definitely keep in touch with you and keep you apprised of what's developing with this program. But we hope to welcome you back in April to learn about a different cohort set of projects, because these are always amazing. So with that, it's 2 minutes after 2. Thank you all for being here today. And thank you in particular, as I say, to these program participants. You guys did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Thank you all
you.
so much. Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
day.
Have a wonderful,
you.
wonderful day. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.